So Sharks, who wants to seal the deal and paint a brighter and greener future?
Meet Billie Asmus, founder of Repaint Studios. After doing a Google search for some reusable paint supplies and seeing that there was none on the market, she invented a reusable silicone paint tray prototype from a Hollywood silicone mold.
You're just awesome. I really love that. That's amazing.
She got her product into Lowe's with no inventory to even begin shipping. Her first manufacturer began stealing from her, and she thought the whole business wouldn't work.
I found out that they were just taking advantage of me. I think this is it. I really think that this is the end of the company for me because I have nothing left.
Then she got the opportunity of a lifetime to pitch her business on Shark Tank.
I felt like everything in my career had led up to this point, even though it's just the beginning.
Billie shares how her idea while painting her wall has turned into an enterprise with a warehouse, employees, and becoming business partners with celebrity investors, all in just a few short years. She shares some great tips and guidance for female founders looking to take a risk on a new business idea. There are so many great nuggets in this episode. I'm really excited to jump in with you guys. Let's go! What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Snodd. It Rhymes Thod, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes Thod podcast. Today, we are jumping in the booth with another amazing guest. We got Billie Asmus in the house. Billie, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
You are the first person on the show of our 98 episodes that's ever been on Shark Tank, so
Woo.
Breaking it in. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you're an Iowa-based entrepreneur, founder. I think it's really cool to have you on. We'll talk about everything that you're doing. I would say your invention that you pitched on the tank was a reusable paint tray liner.
Yep.
Which I told my wife about this interview, and she's a big DIYer, and she's like, "They make those?"
Yeah.
So I think that in itself explains that there's definitely a need there. So
Yes.
Congrats on all the success thus far.
Thank you. It's been a crazy journey.
Absolutely. So I guess before we jump into kind of your current or your backstory, I should say, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do? I usually say if you're in an Uber with a chatty driver, what would you typically tell them? They're like, "Oh, who are you? What do you do?"
Yes. So I'm Billie Asmus, CEO and founder of Repaint Studios and inventor of this thing called the Repaint Tray. Outside of that, I am a mom of two crazy kids, and I have a husky at home that never keeps my house clean. And yeah, we live in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. Grew up in a small town of Wisconsin, and I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. My parents were entrepreneurs, and then I ended up working for my in-laws, and they had their own company for several years. And I worked in corporate America for about 8 months, and I said, that's it. So I've always just really enjoyed the entrepreneurial world. And so I just always knew that I was going to own a company someday.
So some people are kind of predetermined for entrepreneurship or know they're going to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, it's, I feel thrust upon them or this idea is too good not to do it. What was kind of were you one or the other?
I think I was a mixture of both because, like I said, I grew up in entrepreneurship. I've only known it my entire life. I always had ideas as a kid and, doing the lemonade stand, and my mom would let me do the garage sales so I could earn a little bit of money. And so I always knew, my entire life, that I was going to be an entrepreneur, that I would have my own company. I just didn't know what it was. Ideally, I think I had thought, it's going to be a coffee shop, a boutique, something along those lines. I never thought it was going to be, you're going to invent a product and launch it into the world. And so when I had the idea for the Repaint Tray, I was standing at my mudroom sink cleaning up my painting supplies because I had a small business before this where I was refinishing and restoring furniture for a lot of clients. And I got so sick of going through the plastic paint tray liners, trying to be able to save my paintbrushes because, a good paintbrush is about $20. So spending a lot of time and money just going back and forth to the store to get more supplies when it would dry out. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just going to invest in a reusable one, just a silicone one, something that has a lid. Then I don't have to keep doing this, trying to use a plastic bag. I started to really worry about my environmental impact too. And I remember searching on Amazon, searching on Google, and nothing existed. And I'm like, how does this not exist already? This is insane to me. And immediately I thought of the name Repaint Tray. I was like, all right, if this doesn't exist, then here's my opportunity to make something happen. It just felt like the stars had aligned in that moment, and I just knew I needed to take it.
Sure. Well, I think even as we mentioned, when it's an obvious thing when you say what it is and people are like, oh, it's not. Do you have 10 minutes for me to explain the issue? It's a reusable paint tray. Yeah, that sounds like a really common thing. When you kind of got this idea, I mean, I'm assuming you're not no background in manufacturing or something, or
No.
creating product from scratch. Like how did you kind of go about the discovery process to kind of see if this was even something viable?
Yeah, it's super interesting because I think also as a kid, I was just always watching people and how they did something, and then I would reverse engineer it all the time. And so, like for example, when I was a kid, I remember watching my dad start the 4-wheeler, and then he was gone one day, and my grandpa needed to use it, and he couldn't. I don't know, I can't remember what he was trying to do, but he couldn't get it to work. And so I was like, oh yeah, you just got to do this. And I remember just being able to watch and observe people and figure out how to do something. And so I kind of just applied that to this scenario of like, okay, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't have experience in manufacturing, let alone any sort of engineering or tooling or anything. So I'm like, I'm sure I could figure it out. So I immediately was thinking back to when I was a kid. I ran to the dollar store. I bought the foam board that you see for a school science project. And I used the leftover plastic paint tray liners that I did have. I made a mold with this foam board. I hot glued the plastic liners upside down. And then I ordered raw silicone from Hollywood prop shop, because most sets, they can't have any sort of sound on set. And so they use a lot of silicone. And so it was like $50 all in to be able to make this mold. I poured the silicone over my first rough mold. And within 5 minutes, I had my first working prototype. And I was like, all right, this is enough evidence for me. This works. Now what do I need to do? And how do I find a manufacturer that will do this for me?
Sure. Well, so with the silicone piece, it's more you just had a paint tray and you just literally molded it to that.
Yeah.
And okay, that's interesting because you're mentioning like props. Now I'm starting to think like what everyday things do I think that when someone puts a coffee mug down, it's not going to go like that. It's going to go squish.
Yeah.
Now my brain's humming on like what movies and TV shows I've seen. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting. And when I actually called the Hollywood prop shop, he was giving me examples of some stuff. So if you watch some TV shows, like if somebody's carrying a brown paper bag, like they're coming in from the grocery store, a lot of times that's made of like a soft silicone, but it still can appear like it's a real paper bag. But when they set it down, it's not going to have the sound.
That's crazy. Yeah, and the Foley artists are always interesting to watch, the gravel on the boots, or they're watching to get the microphones in the studio, and they're kind of doing that. That's always super cool. I know prior to you going off into doing the company, what was kind of your career background? Did you have any kind of like, I guess, which area were you going prior to starting the company?
Honestly, I always keep my doors open, so I was always trying new things. So my degree and background, though, is marketing and communication, and then a minor in leadership. And so right out of college, I traveled abroad for a little while, and then I worked in radio. And I worked in radio for about 8 months, and I was like, that's enough for me. This is not that great. And then I ended up working for my in-laws in their agricultural business, and I did their marketing and communication for about 5 years. But I've always had a love for DIY and home improvement. My husband and I had just bought our first house, so I was doing a lot of the renovations myself to save money and see what I could learn and do. And so it just became a big passion of mine as I did it more and more. And so I started flipping furniture and seeing if I could sell it. And then I started getting this huge client list, and it started to take over a lot faster than I anticipated. And so finally I had this conversation with my in-laws and said, I think I want to take this over full time. And it allowed me time to be able to stay home with my daughter a bit more. So I did that for about a year, but it was like 2 months into that when I had the idea for the repaint tray. And so that kind of flowed into everything of what I was doing with my home improvement and all my furniture flipping and upcycling. And so I just realized, okay, now this side of the repaint tray in this company is starting to grow and expand, that now I have to set this side apart. But I think with Repaint Studios and everything that has come from all of this it's caused me to learn so much more than I could possibly ever imagine. I think as an entrepreneur, you're always having to be as lean as possible. And so you're constantly educating yourself, figuring out, how can I do X, Y, Z, or who can I talk to that might know somebody. So it's created this whole road of unknown that I never even thought was possible. And it's provided enough experience for me in this world that, again, like I never would have possibly imagined.
Sure. Well, and a lot of people think, oh, I didn't go to school for business, or I don't have like family members I could ask or whatever. Was there ever any like doubts in your mind on like trying to figure some of that stuff out on your own?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, what entrepreneur doesn't have doubts? And I also just had a really tough time because when I was going through this process, I was actually pregnant with my son. And so I decided to go back to school for a semester to see, one, is this actually viable? Like, will people buy this? Is this a want? Is this a need? Do other people have frustrations in this space as much as I do? And through that process, I mean, it was tough to talk to people because we were also kind of on the tail end of COVID. People were still unsure, so nobody wanted to talk to me in person. But also, it was really tough to get people to even talk to me in the painting industry because nobody wanted to give me the time of day. They're like, "Oh, you're a DIYer. Like, you're not actually a painting contractor. You're not actually in home improvement." And so nobody gave me the time of day, and it made it really, really tough to really understand if this was going to be legitimate or not. The other tough thing is manufacturing is a very male dominated space. And so for me to come in and say, hey, I have this idea, but I'm not making sales yet. I don't have anybody to make it for me. No manufacturer would talk to me. I mean, I spent an entire year just conducting interviews to see if anybody would just make this for me. And I'll never forget, there was one manufacturer that I had talked to out of Minnesota. And I go through my whole spiel. I have this idea, I've got people interested. Can you get me a quote? And he looks at me and he's like, oh, well, have you looked on Amazon? And I just about like bang my head against the wall because I'm like, sir, like I've already filed my patent and everything. You'd think I would look on Amazon before I decided to call a manufacturer. So it made it really tough to be able to find people that actually believed in me in that early stage that would want to take this on.
Sure. Well, and as you're going through that process, from that prototype to landing your first like manufacturer that will actually build you kind of your first run, what was that time and what kind of did you learn about yourself and the brand and how it could stand on its own two legs?
Yeah, it took me a little over a year before I finally found the right manufacturer, the right partner to be able to make this for me. And eventually I did have to start manufacturing overseas because they were the only ones that would be able to talk to me and get me an accurate quote. But I think the most difficult thing right then, because we were a one-income household for a very long time, is, okay, now I have this idea. People are interested in it, but now I need the finances to be able to make this happen. So it took a lot to be able to invest in that. So now I'm getting quotes and I'm like, oh, cool. $30,000 just for the molds. And now I need to find another $60,000 just to order inventory. And, it starts to become more of a reality and all of that. Like, okay, this is where the money starts to come in. And if I really want to pursue this and see if this can happen.
Sure. Well, and early on, did you really think it was going to be more residential client base, or did you ever look at like commercial, or what was kind of the mix when you first got the idea to do it and how big it could get?
I initially thought it was going to be commercial. That was who I pursued right away. I conducted hundreds and hundreds of interviews, and I got less and less response from the commercial, the professional side of things. I think because a lot of it is they're not as eco-conscious, I think, as the average homeowner might be or the average DIYer. Also, they're already charging their clients for a lot of those supplies to begin with. So I switched and I went and started talking more of the DIYers, the home improvement people, and it was everyday people like me. They're a stay-at-home mom. They love doing DIY, but they might not be able to spend an entire weekend painting in one sitting. So they were looking for something to have that convenience to start and stop painting whenever they wanted to. So once I figured out, okay, this is actually my audience and this is starting to grow, especially over COVID. Everybody was stuck at home. You're staring at a wall. You're like, I might as well paint it. And so the DIY industry just exploded over that time. So more and more people were starting to pick up, different type of trades, figuring out how to do electrical work or even just how to cut their hair, and painting was one of those things because it's one of the easiest and most affordable ways for somebody with little to no experience in DIY to be able to pick it up and do it themselves. And so when I realized, okay, this is my audience, this is the direction that I need to take this.
Oh, that's perfect. So you get into that first manufacturer. Who's the first people that took a chance on you, and how did you convince them to take a chance on you?
It's interesting. So the first people that took a chance on me were a couple business partners that I had taken on, and they helped me source the manufacturing. They were kind of the people in the early stage that they saw the product for what it's worth. They thought this could be something really big and decided to kind of help me get there. Later on, about a year into the company, I found out that they were just taking advantage of me. So they started skimming a lot of money into the company, and I immediately had to get rid of them. And it was a huge blow. It was a huge blow because here were these people early on in my company that believed in me, or so I thought. But I take it as a compliment now because they saw that my product and my company could be something huge. And so they're like, we want to get in on this early and take advantage of it because we know it's worth something. And unfortunately, that happens. That happens a lot to startups, especially in a product-based industry, because you don't know what you're doing. You're looking for help. You're looking for people that you can trust and guide you in that space. And then, there's a lot of leeches out there, and that tends to happen. So yes, they were the first people to believe in me, but I would say I got a lot more support from the outside world versus the inside with family and friends. And I think friends and family are always going to mean well. They want to protect you. They don't want to see you hurt or be put in a vulnerable place or, lose a ton of money. And it's hard for them to kind of watch this like, oh my gosh, you're taking a huge risk in your life and financially and for your family. Are you sure you want to do this? And so I saw a lot more support, I think, just from the outside world, because here I was like, all right, I'm going to put it on social media. No idea what type of response I'm going to get. This is simply an idea. I barely even had a prototype. And the response was overwhelming. It was crazy how many people were saying like, yeah, this thing needs to exist. And I've been looking for something like this my entire life. So I always tell people that when you're in the early stages of a product-based business or just a company in general, so many people, especially friends and family, are going to look at you and say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? This is such a big risk financially for your family. Just play it safe, go to a corporate company, whatever. And then I remember seeing this distinct shift when those questions started turning into, how are you doing this? How are you blowing up in the industry? How are you getting deals with Home Depot and Lowe's? How are you all of a sudden talking with celebrities and stuff that want to use your product? And I'm like, I don't know, honestly, but
I didn't listen to you. That's what.
Right, exactly. You have to drown those people out and just totally believe in yourself and go for it.
Sure. No, that's super interesting. And it's always the turning point, because then it's like, what are you doing? Oh, how are you doing it? And then it's like, hey, can I come work for you? It's like the 3 steps of guilt and resentment that comes in there.
Be like, you lost your chance to be an early investor, man.
That's awesome. Okay, so you said a couple first years, like you said, you're trying to scrape some money together to get a prototype. At what point did you realize, like, okay, I need to have like a silent partner, an investor, or some kind of like funding partner to even get this thing off the ground?
So I didn't. I did all the funding pretty much myself. So I took out my 401k, totally liquidated all of it to be able to make this happen. I sold a ton of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I had a little bit of money left over from my previous company when I was upcycling furniture. And I took that and just invested everything I could. My dad invested about $30,000, which I've since been able to pay him off for that. He came back and invested another $50,000, which I've been able to pay him back. And that's such a good feeling. But I self-funded a lot of this. I took out a small loan for an additional $50,000. And it's been interesting watching this. And then as I started to hit this growth where I'm like, okay, now I have these deals with Home Depot and Lowe's and all these other potential partners, I really need to heavily invest in inventory, because when I first bought my first run of inventory, it was a minimum of 5,000 units, so 5,000 repaint trays. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot of paint trays. Like, am I going to be able to sell these? And I sold out within 4 months of the 5,000 units I had invested in. And I remember thinking, I need to buy a lot more. And so it went from, okay, I have $60,000 worth of inventory now to $250,000 of inventory. How am I going to make this happen? And that was terrifying, but it's been going well.
Well, and it takes a lot of belief, I feel like, to, like you said, completely bet on yourself. What was that conversation like with your husband at the time of like, hey, I'm at work we're putting all the chips in, and I'm fully committed to this? Like, how does that mindset go for you, for yourself, but also for your family as well, knowing the risks that you're taking?
My husband was all for it, I think, because he has a very entrepreneurial mindset too. So he was like, yeah, hell yeah, you should do this. This is amazing. So he was, he was already thinking like 20 years ahead, and he always says that I'm going to be his sugar mama. So he's like, oh, I'm ready to quit my job and buy a fishing boat and just like lay on the boat all day long. I'm like, okay, yeah, one step at a time, bud. But yeah, it's been definitely a process, but he's been so supportive from the get-go. And I am also the same thought process. So I'm thinking 20 years ahead of like, what can this be? Not necessarily just like for me and my family, but, watching my parents in the community that I grew up in and having an entrepreneurial spirit, and they did a lot in the community. I think of it like, oh my gosh, what could I do to be able to help build my community and the people around me just from me taking a chance on a paint tray?
Sure. No, I love it. So you self-fund to a certain point. We're starting to sell out these first orders. At what point in this process did you decide, hey, I kind of like that Shark Tank TV show. Maybe I should go see if a shark could give me a deal?
That is strange because so many people are like, you need to go on Shark Tank. This is such a Shark Tank company. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I applied in the early stages when I was still a prototype, and I thought I just put it out there. Never heard back. And I was like, okay, that was my chance. And then it was earlier this year. I remember thinking, I should just see if they have any more open casting calls. And sure enough, they had one left that was in Kansas City. And I was like, okay, that's about a 4-hour drive. I'm like, worst case scenario, I drove 4 hours one way and I never hear back from them, but at least I gave it a chance. And sure enough, I go to the open casting call. I walk into the pitch, and you get 1 minute to pitch. You're standing in line for hours. And the casting producer looks at me and he's like, I know you. I'm like, how do you know me? Like, where did you see me in line or maybe social media? And he's like, no, I've seen your product before. Like, this is really, really cool. And he's like, you don't have to pitch me. You don't have to pitch me. Just give me some updates. Tell me, where are you at with the company and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. I was like frantically trying to figure out like, what do I say?
Because you had a pitch prepared.
I had a pitch prepared and I was up all night long. Like I maybe slept 3 hours. I mean, there's a video that I took and you can literally see the bags under my eyes from not sleeping that night. And so then I just had to like show him the product and where I was at. And I was about to wrap up and leave. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. Do you want to peel the paint out of the tray? And he's like, yes. And at that moment, you could just see like his eyes light up. And he was all for it. And he wrote a big giant yes on the top of my application. And he's like, I can't make any guarantees, but I'm going to get you on the show. And it was about a week later that he called me with the official yes that I was going to be on the show.
That's crazy. Because they don't film it in Kansas City. That was just the casting location, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I think, and I've seen a lot of things on social media of like the shark showing like the set and all the different things. Because I don't think people realize like that show's been around for 20 years now, something like that.
Yeah,
15 years.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
I remember seeing the first season and like Mark Cuban looks like 30 years younger.
I know.
Just the age kind of gets people. So.
Oh yeah, they totally changed the dynamic of it. And actually, after the first season of Shark Tank, they almost got cut. They didn't think it was entertaining enough. They didn't think there was enough, wow to the show. And so they almost just killed it after one season, but they were able to revive it.
Well, I think it's such an incredible thing because it makes entrepreneurship approachable for people and to kind of see. And then you're talking about like CAC and revenue and profit sharing, and people are like, well, Googling, like it's kind of like a rough education of what this stuff is like. Do you feel like the show influenced you at all to kind of start your business, or did you not really even think about it prior to that?
No, I never really even thought about Shark Tank prior to that. I mean, I've watched it several times and it's interesting to watch it. I would say I watched it a lot more as I was going through the application process and knowing that I was going to be on the show because I wanted to study it a lot more. But otherwise, no, it was never really in the picture for me.
Sure. Okay. So you go, is it LA is where they film it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you go to LA, roll up, like, what was that experience like kind of walking out and kind of like right before the camera started rolling, that type of thing?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I didn't find out I was flying out there until like 3 or 4 days before. Like it is super short notice. All of a sudden they send you the airline ticket and they're like, here you go. And I remember thinking like, am I voluntarily being abducted right now? Because as soon as you land in the airport, it's like they send you this email and they're like, go out to the third pillar on the second sidewalk and then look for a black van and it's going to have a little shark in the window and you're going to ask for Skylar. And I was like, what am I actually going to Shark Tank or where am I going right now? So that was super interesting just getting there. And then they ahead of time, they walk you through the set. They tell you where you're supposed to stop, where's your mark. They show you your setup. Does this look good? And then basically you go back out into the holding room and they come and get you when you're ready to go. And you stand in front of the first set of doors, and that's when, like, pretty sure I blacked out. I don't know. They start counting down from 7, and it's not normal seconds. It's like 7, 6, 5. And I'm like, hold on a second. Like, you guys need to slow down. And the doors open. There's no sound. There's not the music that you see on the show. And there's a camera about from like me to you away. And they're walking backwards. They're following you. And you just have to, do your walk down the hallway, hit your mark. And then you have to be silent for 2 minutes. And I'm like, that was like the worst 2 minutes of my life, because you're just standing there in complete silence because they have to check the audio, they have to check the visuals, make sure everything looks good. And then you hear over the sound system, begin. And then you begin your pitch, and that's how it goes. And you're just staring at all these billionaires and billionaires for, a couple minutes, hoping that, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going to happen, but here we go.
That's awesome. So people see, I think it's like a 7-ish minute version of the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
How long was yours? Did it take hours? Was it 20 minutes? How long did you have to pitch them?
So they don't cut you off or anything. So as soon as they start rolling, you're going the whole time. The only reason they would ever cut is if there's some sort of sound or visual issue. But I was in there for close to an hour. So it was a long time.
That's crazy. Because I know, I'm sure they had a bunch of different questions and things. Was there anything that they asked you that never made it on TV that you were like, thought it would, and then you watched it back, you're like, oh, they cut that out?
Yeah, so I actually had Chip and Joanna Gaines were the guest sharks this year, which was
my wife
awesome.
would have crapped if she was there. She loves them. She's been to Waco and been to the Magnolia. And
I just got back from the silos in Waco, and that was a cool experience.
I think the hat I'm wearing right
now
is from
Magnolia.
Yeah.
I saw that.
My one gift I got from the trip I didn't go on. So.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so they were the guest sharks this year, and I didn't find that out until like a couple weeks before I flew out there. And so I actually had Chip come up for a demo because I'm like, oh, Chip, we all know you love demo day. And I had him come up to show the durability of the tray because our tray is made out of steel. And the standard on the market is aluminum. And so I brought up an aluminum tray and I said, I need you to stand on it, show what it's like. And he crushed it. He was like literally wearing his work boots on the set, which I thought was hilarious. He crushed this aluminum tray, and then I had him stand on our steel tray, and he literally has air. Like there is a photo on our social media that you can go check out that he is literally jumping up on the air, landing on our tray. And I'm like, I've had hundreds of people stand on our tray and show the durability of it, but he was getting air. And I remember blacking out thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be the first time somebody actually breaks my tray and it's going to be on TV. Mm-hmm. And I was upset that they never had aired that piece.
Oh, they didn't put it in there?
No, they did it. They cut it out. And I thought for sure they would air that because it was a really good demo and it really shows the durability of our product. And I thought it would be a really good selling point.
Well, and he's a pretty big guy too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially wearing like work boots and stuff like that. I'd be more afraid he was going to like slip on it and fall and bust his head open or something. I'd be like, somebody make sure they're spotting this man so he's right. broken in half, That's super crazy. So you go through this whole process. If people haven't seen your episode, obviously we'll link it below, but did you get a deal? What was kind of your experience like and the outcome that you had at the end?
Yep. So I ended up getting a deal. When I went in there, I was very set on Chip and Joanna Gaines because they have inspired my story for a good portion of my life because I love home improvement. I love DIY. I started flipping furniture in high school before Fixer Upper was ever even a thing. And then it came out and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to buy my own fixer-upper and I want to be able to make my, dream house and all this stuff. And they had really inspired that. So when I found out that they were going to be on the show, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a no-brainer. I am in the DIY space. This is what they do. And so I was very set on getting a deal with them. And I was open to other people, of course, but I think I was very set on them because of how much they had inspired my story. And so when I went in there and they were hesitant to invest in me because they didn't see how this would fit in their Magnolia line, I was like, yeah, I totally get it. And there's a ton of dialogue that was cut out, like between me and Barbara Corcoran and between me and Chip and Joe. But yeah, at the end of it, I ended up getting a deal with Barbara Corcoran and Chip and Joanna Gaines. So they split the deal for $250,000 for 15%. So that's exciting.
Super crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What was that feeling like after they probably come up, shake your hand, and you walk off the stage, what was kind of your like feeling that you did it? You went on the show and you got your damn deal.
I was sobbing. I was literally sobbing and I couldn't stop. And I remember walking back down the hallway and one of the producers had yelled over the system, "You need to celebrate." And I'm like, I am celebrating. I'm like, this is surreal because this is a once in a lifetime type opportunity where you're meeting these people in business that, I mean, they've made massive careers for themselves. And here they see the value of your company and what you're worth, and they want to be a part of it. And that's surreal in and of itself. But the fact that they want to put money into it is like, oh my gosh. And so it's this flood of emotions as you're walking out. And I just like could not stop sobbing because I'm like, I felt like everything in my career had led up to this point, even though it's just the beginning. Like there's so much more that's going to be happening over the next few years. And that Shark Tank is just a glimpse into what my company is and what we're doing. So it's just afterwards, it just like everything came crashing down. It was a mix of excitement, but also sadness because this moment that I've been waiting for was over. And it's a surreal experience. And I've talked to other Shark Tank companies and I asked them like, you know, how did you feel coming out of the tank? And a lot of them felt the same thing. It was this mix of this ultimate high, but also this extreme low at the same time, which makes it so interesting. But that's honestly like, that's entrepreneurship. That's owning a company is a lot of amazing highs and also some extreme lows that could happen either at the same time or within an hour.
That's incredible. Was there a party that was like kind of bummed that you weren't the sole owner of your company anymore? I mean, you mentioned you had some debt from family and things like that, but giving a piece of your baby away, right? How was that feeling like for you?
I was totally okay with it.
Okay.
Like, I'm definitely proud to own 100% of my company, but I also know that you can only go so far. I think, you know, yes, there is a huge level of risk of taking out like a massive loan to make something happen, and I could go that route. But I think taking on an investor, because I'm more focused on having the right advisors and people that are going to come in to bring in their expertise in the manufacturing space or home improvement. I see way more value in that than just the money and me owning 100%.
Sure. No, that's crazy. So I'm kind of interested too, like after the show's wrapped and everything, what does that relationship look like with your investor partners? Do they have like, I know Mark Cuban's mentioned many times, he has like a team of guys that manage everything. Mark's not on the phone with people all day. I mean, he is, but for other things. What's that experience been like for you post show? Because you went on, it was this year, right? 2025?
Yeah, so we filmed in June.
Okay. So it's been 4 or 5 months or so. What's the experience been like for you post show and what it's been like for you?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is I was expedited through this process to be on season 17 instead of season 18 because they knew that Chip and Joanna Gaines were going to be on the show and they thought my product will line up. So originally when I had applied, it was going to be for season 18. So most people have a lot more time to finish those deals with the Sharks and go through that process. But there's still a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. So like right now, I've only been able to work with their individual teams and like Chip and Joe's manager and same with Barbara's manager. So they look into everything in your company. So even though like you get a deal on screen, there's so much that happens after the fact because they want to make sure what you're saying is true. They want to look at all your financials and, you know, do more background checks and everything. So we're still in that process right now. And, but at the end of the day, it's still really exciting to be working with their teams and, you know, talking like with their social media team and saying, hey, we're going to launch this week. Here are some great trends and you should talk about this. So that's been really helpful in kind of seeing it from their perspective.
That's cool. So your episode's live. It's aired publicly on NBC, right?
ABC Network.
ABC Network, right? They switched it over. Yeah. So what was did you guys have a watch party? Did you do like a bunch of things prior to? What was that like for you?
Yeah, the prep leading up to the airing was wild. I don't feel like I slept at all, to be honest, because there's just so much you have to be prepared for and making sure your website can handle the traffic and, you know, you've got enough customer support help. So it aired on Wednesday night and I remember thinking like, I'm not going to do a watch party on Wednesday night. It's just going to be a normal night for us. My daughter is tumbling on Wednesday night. So I'm like, we got too much going on. And so I wasn't going to actually have a watch party. And then the landlord of the warehouse that we rent out, he came into the warehouse one day and he's like, hey, are you going to be doing a watch party? And I was like, yeah, I think we'll do one on Friday, just with some friends and family when they come out of town, but nothing on Wednesday night. And he's like, will you be my guest of honor? Can I throw a party for you? And I was like, yeah. absolutely, Dave, you totally throw me a party. And so he invited a ton of people from the community. I mean, there was people that showed up to support me that I'm like, I don't even know your name, but you're here. And that's really cool. So, yeah, we did have a watch party that Wednesday night, and it was a ton of people from the community to support me. They put like food in my paint trays, and it was a whole thing. And it was really neat to see people that wanted to come out and support me and rally around me that I'm like, I don't know who you are, but you believe in this. And that's the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we filmed a draft day for a athlete in Ankeny that got drafted to the Rockies for in second round for baseball. Same thing. It was like you just see all these people from their childhood show up and want to support and whatnot, and just be there to see the moment of like get the call from the agent of like the deal's approved, and then you see it on TV of like they draft you, and they're it's kind of a cool thing.
It is.
Public showing of moving up in the world. So, so as you kind of went through that experience, what was the most surprising aspect of being on Shark Tank?
Oh man, the surprising aspect of it, I think, is just seeing people pop up from all over the globe that all of a sudden want to talk to you, and they see you as an expert. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, you have kind of like that imposter syndrome where you're like, do you really want to talk to me? Like, sure. I think the most surprising thing is also suddenly people kind of see you in this certain light. I do not want to put myself on a stage like I'm a celebrity. I do not view myself that way at all. But it's interesting because some people do kind of see you in that light a little bit just because you were on TV for 10 seconds. And I remember I was meeting with another Shark Tank company that was on a few seasons ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. And I remember their episode. I remember watching their story and thinking, wow, this guy is so inspiring. I love his story. He's taking this risk and doing this thing. And I was having this meeting with him, and I told my husband ahead of time, I'm like, I get to have a meeting with so-and-so, and I'm so excited about this. And he looks at me and he's like, people feel that way when they talk to you, how you feel when you're talking to this guy. And I was like, no, not at all.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. Yeah. So I think that's been the most amazing aspect of it, is that, people really do want to talk to me to hear my expertise and hear my story. And that it's getting easier, I think, for me to embrace that a little bit more.
Sure. No, I love that. It's kind of funny too. I was actually on an entrepreneurship TV show, not Shark Tank though. I was on The Blocks. If you've ever heard of them before. So it's a live-in startup competition for 7 days that you live in. They film it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we were in a casino hotel for 7 days straight.
Wow.
I didn't go outside for like a week. It was a very weird experience, but and you kind of have these I would say like expectations, and then you go and it's not, what you would expect. So it's a lot of like, oh, can you like look excited again, or look, like trying to kind of feed emotions and things. So yeah, it's kind of interesting combination there. Another question I had too was they always talk about the Shark Tank effect for a business. What was that like when is it what you pictured and kind of prepared for, where this episode goes live on Wednesday and then you're getting like your Shopify notifications are exploding, or you're getting like order emails? Like, what was that like for you?
It wasn't as big as I was hoping, honestly. And I know there was a few factors in that, is that they moved it to Wednesday nights instead of Friday nights. Not a lot of people are watching live television anymore. More people are watching reruns, or they'll go back and watch it later. There was also a huge boycott right before my episode aired against Hulu and Disney Plus, and that's where Shark Tank airs on those platforms. So Disney lost billions of dollars within like 24 hours. It was insane. So I was like, I love a good boycott, but also not right now.
I need people to see my show.
I know, exactly. So, we got a good peak the night that it aired. And then it, kind of dropped off a little bit, which is what we were prepared for. But I was prepared to sell like thousands of units like within 24 hours. And that wasn't the case. And so I was a little bit let down, to be honest, because we've had more success with a viral TikTok, So, we've had hundreds and hundreds of orders within 24 to 48 hours. And so I was expecting that, at least times 3. And that didn't happen. And so I was like, oh, man, like, what was this? What is the purpose of this now? And so it did feel like a little bit of a letdown, but at the same time, like, we still saw a lot of growth. We got a lot of exposure. And, again, it's nice to be able to work with other Shark Tank companies and hear their experience and understand, like, okay, they're not the only ones that are experiencing the same thing as me. So I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Thank God. Because I'm like, oh my God, I have a really terrible product. Nobody likes it, going down that rabbit hole. But I mean, it was a good experience. I really liked the exposure and the amount of sales that we had at that point, but now it's just keeping up with that momentum.
Sure. No, I love that. I guess we'll take a break here from your story for a second. We'll do the lightning round. So we ask some random questions we haven't briefed you on before, kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Starting out of the gate here, what is your favorite paint color right now?
Ooh, my favorite paint color is Rosemary by Sherwin-Williams. It's kind of like a deepish sage green, and I just did a color drench in our sunroom right now, and I absolutely love it.
I love it. That's great. We almost did a project with Sherwin-Williams for some videos here in Iowa, which is kind of fun. We actually would have been up kind of near your area, but the shoot date just didn't align, so I have to put that on the list. Rosemary from Sherwin-Williams.
Yes.
I like it. Who's your favorite shark from Shark Tank from all the different years that it's been on the TV?
I would definitely say Barbara Corcoran.
Okay.
I've been following her for a long time, and it's so funny because a lot of people, when they watch my episode, they're like, you didn't give Barbara enough time or the time of day and all this stuff. And I was like, actually, there was a ton of dialogue that people missed between her and I, and she has an incredible story. So I've just been following her for a very long time, and she is a tough cookie. She is tiny, but tough. And so I'm super excited to have her on my team.
Oh, I love that. Let's see. If you could collaborate with any brand or creator to help promote your product, who would it be?
Magnolia.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting because Magnolia for sure is more in the home decor type space. And this part was actually not on the show, but there was a whole aspect where Chip and Joe are like, we don't see this fitting in with our Magnolia line. And I had said this on TV and they didn't air it, but I said, I don't care. I don't care if it fits in with the Magnolia line. It's not meant to fit in with the Magnolia line, but people are following you in the DIY space. So what you are doing, so if you are painting with Rosemary Green from Sherwin-Williams, everybody is painting with Rosemary Green from Sherwin-Williams. And so they are shaping that space of home improvement and DIY, whether or not they are actually using the Magnolia products. So I'm like, if you were using my paint tray on one of your shows, people are going to be like, what is that and how can I get it? So I was more focused on how can we work together in a partnership, not necessarily whether or not my product fits in with her product line. So ideally, yeah. I mean, maybe there's something there. Maybe if I make my paint tray in a beige color and it fits the aesthetic, then something will happen. But
sure. Well, I think there's definitely product alignment, product market fit for they could have a DIY line at Lowe's or Home Depot where it's like Magnolia branded paint rollers and bibs that you could wear, paint gloves, like easily they could do that. Not easily, but it would. Yeah. They could align it. I think would be fine. If entrepreneurship was a sport, which one would it be and what position would you play?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I can't remember what it's called, but in the Olympics, there's like that
breakdance fight.
Right. Yeah.
Australian
right. Oh my gosh. No, it's this Olympic round where they're literally like on skis and they have a gun on their back and then they have to like ski up and down these hills.
Yeah, cross country skiing, I think, with a rifle, I think.
Yeah. Like I don't know if there's like a certain name for it, but I would say entrepreneurship is like that, where all of a sudden you're like hustling up this hill with 2 pairs of skis and like a heavy back. And then all of a sudden you have to lay down and like shoot something. I don't know. That's what entrepreneurship feels like, is like, again, these highs and these lows. And then all of a sudden like something comes out of nowhere and you have to just handle it.
Sure. No, I love that. And you have to calm your breathing down. Like you're hustling and then you got to like breathe
and focus,
shoot accurately, and then keep going. Now, I love that. I would have never guessed someone would say that. So I'm glad I asked that question. Biggest skill that you had from your corporate or previous career that you attribute really to entrepreneurship and building your business now?
A few things. So with my degree and background in organizational communication and marketing and leadership, like those have all helped me. And I was surprised how much I referenced back my degree. And I still kept a lot of my college books and I've still had to pull them out. And granted, when I was going through marketing, I was learning a lot more about radio and newspaper and everything. And some of it is still relevant, but I think that has helped me the most. But also just being in that entrepreneurial space with my parents and seeing how they work together as a married couple in entrepreneurship, seeing how my in-laws have worked together. And that's been the biggest piece, because then now my husband actually works for me. He lost his job earlier this spring. And so that's when we were like, what do we do? Do I take you on my team? Like, how are we going to make this happen? Because he was our sole income. But anyway, I think watching his parents and my parents both in, that entrepreneurial space together and how they work together as a married couple, provided so much insight for how we were going to approach this together and what we want to do and what we don't want to do. So I think there's a few different things that have really helped me understand how I want to take this.
For sure. Well, you've passed the gauntlet. Congratulations.
Thank
We're out of
you.
the lightning round. Really curious too, just in the last like 12 to 24 months, what's the size and scope of the company? Like, do you guys have a manufacturing facility in the States? Are you overseas? Like, what's kind of your make and model? And then also the team makeup. How many people are on the team?
There are 4 people on the team full-time, including myself. So I have a customer support / warehouse manager. You have to be lean and mean and do all types of things in entrepreneurship. My husband, Holden, he does the whole side retail side of sales. And then he also helps out in the warehouse when we get a lot of orders that come in. And then I also have a marketing manager that helps with a lot of our social media content and managing a ton of that. And then me, I'm doing everything. I feel like every little aspect of all of it. So we run pretty lean. And then there's let's see. The company, I think, it's really starting to grow. Like it's hitting this trajectory, and it's exactly what I had said on Shark Tank, where I'm like, we're hitting this massive growth, and I need people behind me to help support me financially, but also that can provide the expertise and knowledge for me to get there. Because now I've got people that are coming in the door that's like Target and QVC, and we've already got to deal with Home Depot and Lowe's and Ace Hardware, and this is such a new space trying to navigate all that with little to no experience. So it's been interesting trying to hit that growth and manage it at the same time. But our manufacturing currently is overseas. We had to start there because no manufacturer would talk to me when I first started. Now they're starting to talk to me. So that's an interesting take.
Well, I'm assuming cost is probably way higher for US-based manufacturing, unless you need like just-in-time manufacturing, or like we've had Lola's Fine Sauces on and they do like hot sauce and salsa, but you have to have, it's a perishable. You can't like make it in China and then ship it here. It's like 2 weeks on the freight. It's going to expire before it even gets to the mainland.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, I could preach all day on the tariff situation, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. But right now we are looking at manufacturing in the United States and see how we can keep our costs low, because when I first was trying to get quotes, I'd have to sell my tray at like $80 a piece to even see some sort of a profit. So we're working on figuring out some of the manufacturing stateside, but also we just moved into our own warehouse to do all of our own product fulfillment. And part of that will actually be a retail front. So we're going to open up a paint and supply store in Iowa Falls, and that'll be really fun to see here soon.
That's great. Yeah, and I don't know how much time you have while you're here in Des Moines, but Tailored Expressions would be another cool one to show you, because they're similar. It's a DIY crafty business.
Yeah.
And similar thing where we recently shot a video of their new expansion, and they're doing that where they have a retail space, they have corporate offices, and then a huge warehouse in the back for fulfillment and things like that with all their stamps and all this stuff. And then I think they host Stamp Joy, which is like a crafting event. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. My mother-in-law is like really into that. And so it's in Ankeny, which is like the headquarters, which is kind of fun.
Cool.
So, but yeah, I think it's definitely a piece that I think as the brands grow, there's a lot of brands that don't have like, I would say, a connection point with their audience, that like people would go to an event for like the shoe company they wear or the food that they eat or what have you. Like, how have you built kind of a group of people or a customer base that like really connects with your product and kind of those core beliefs, like you said, the DIY people out there that you really identified early on?
Yeah, it's interesting because DIY, I think, is kind of a tight-knit community, I would say, even though, it's massive on social media, because it's been picked up by a lot more people that are the average homeowner, somebody that's staying at home or just trying to make a little bit of extra money, but they're also educating themselves. So I think we all collectively understand each other, that we're like, we've never tried to do something like this, but we're also educating ourselves and trying to figure it out together. So nobody here is an expert by any means, but we're all learning together. And so that's made it really unique experience, I feel like, being in that space. But something I always strive for on our own social media is, how can we make it feel like you are part of an exclusive club and that you want to be a part of it? And it's not to be, exclusive in a sense that we're excluding people, but it's like, look at how cool this is. We want to bring you into our family and our friend group, and how can you be a part of it? And so that's what we just strive for on our social media. Is we're so goofy. We just make the most random content, and it's not always about the product. It's more of like, we're this cool community and we want you to be a part of the club.
I love that. You mentioned you're in Ace Hardware, some of these other ones. Are you in all of these locations? Some of them? Are they doing trial runs? Like, where are you at in that kind of distribution process?
So when we started with Lowe's, we launched in 417 stores nationwide, and then we also launched online with them. So we have another conversation with them to get more stores and to kind of re-up that. And then Home Depot, we're just online with HomeDepot.com. Ace Hardware is unique because you're working with all the individual franchises. And so it really kind of depends on you selling the individual store, the family-owned store. So those are all over the place. We're in Washington and Texas and Wisconsin and, all over the place. It's really hard to give you an exact location when it comes to the Ace Hardware locations. But those are our main ones. And then otherwise, we're online at repaintstudios.com.
Sure, sure. No, I love that. That's great. As you're kind of starting to land some of these like larger retail partners, what's kind of your growth plan for the company as you're starting to kind of, who we've already are in the two very large nationwide home improvement stores. What's kind of that growth plan for you?
The growth plan, I wouldn't say is necessarily with those retail partners. I mean, yes, I want to expand with them and grow that, get in stores, get more exposure. But I really want to expand the product line because we've had really good success with the one paint tray. But I mean, so many of our customers reach out and are like, we want more. We want more. How can you make a mini version and an extra large version for contracting? How can you make the cup and a roller cover and this and that? So right now, my focus is on, yes, we want to grow with what we have, but how can, one, we improve the current repaint tray? How can we make it better? How can we make it fit more universal? Because right now it does not fit Canadian rollers, and that's made it really difficult to enter the Canadian industry and that market because for whatever reason, Canadian paint trays, they use 9.5-inch rollers. Everywhere else in the world is a standard 9-inch roller. So our paint trays don't fit for their rollers. And so it's made it really difficult to enter that market. So we're working on redesigning the current repaint tray to be able to make it more of a universal fit, fix some of the issues that I see with it that we've gotten for feedback from customers. And so I just want to expand the product line, be able to provide more and hit all those different aspects.
Sure. Do you see opening or adding other painting related or DIY other related products and like maybe things that are adjacent to this but not necessarily paint related? Anything like that at all?
Possibly. I think, we might have our own paintbrush or something like that. We are actually working on launching our own paint line. So that is a fully recycled paint line. So everything is manufactured out of Colorado. And so people can drop off their paint that's been sitting in the basement for 10 years that they have no idea what to do with. We can take it, separate it by color, and fully recycle it and filter it and then reuse it. And so that's something we're working on. But outside of that, I mean, I don't know what other products I would work on outside of just, kind of the painting industry or kind of more home improvement.
Sure. Through this whole process, I think it's interesting seeing the journey and the explosive growth, but then also like the lightning in the bottle of being on a national TV show. What do you feel like has been like one of the highest points for you in this journey, and then one of the lowest points?
Oh my gosh. The highest points, yes, I think would be finding out I was going to be on Shark Tank. I would say the first big deal that I got was with Lowe's. That was in 2023, right before I launched. And so I pitched to them December 2023. I didn't have any inventory on hand yet, but I went into this pitch and I was like, we're on top of the world. We've got all this inventory. I had to make it sound like we were the biggest thing since sliced bread. And so I had to convince them like, hey, yeah, you got to bring me in stores. You got to do this, this, and this. And they were all for it and put in a huge purchase order. And then I remember thinking immediately after, like, this is amazing, but also I don't even have inventory on hand. So we had to figure out how to make that happen. So that was an amazing high because that was like this big kick, like right into my journey. Before I had even launched into the market, I had already gotten a deal with Lowe's. And that felt amazing that I was on the right path. I think some of the ultimate lows is, several things was finding out those business partners were taking money from me, which was really, really hard because we were one income household. Here I am trying to just find something to support my family. And it just felt like oh my gosh, I have poured everything into this only for people to just like walk all over me. And then also, I mean, my husband lost his job earlier this year. So there was just various things and entrepreneurship, it ebbs and flows where all of a sudden you've got all the money in the world and then it feels like the next day it's just gone. And so there were so many times that I was in a very, very low position. I mean, actually, right before Shark Tank, we were working with a warehouse out of Chicago, and we found out that they were damaging a lot of our inventory. I mean, slashing our trays, sending out damaged inventory to our customers, losing stuff. They lost one of our pallets. I mean, there was a lot of damage and a lot of loss, and we had to get out of there as soon as possible. But they created so many problems that we had to pull in our attorneys and all these issues. And it was right before Shark Tank, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to actually have any inventory on hand for when those orders come in from Shark Tank. And that's going to be the biggest blow. And how do I report that back to my investors? How do I tell the sharks that I just made a deal with that I don't have anything? And that was terrifying. And I mean, I'll be completely honest in saying, like, a few days before Shark Tank, I was on the kitchen floor sobbing. I was sobbing, and I looked at my husband. I'm like, I think this is it. Like, I really think that this is the end of the company for me because I have nothing left, even though a few days from now I'm going to be on Shark Tank and I have to project to the world that everything is great and fantastic, when in reality, like, I might not have anything. And it's scary. It's really, really scary to put that everything on the line for it. And it's tough in entrepreneurship when you have to sometimes put on this face like, look at me, life is amazing. I've got this deal and I've got this and I've got that. And look at what we're doing, when underneath you're like, I don't know how I'm going to execute XYZ. I don't know how I'm going to get from point A to point B, but I know what I believe in and I have to just keep going.
No, I love that. And as you were kind of experiencing some of those like ultra low moments, what are some of those things like the kitchen floor? What have they taught you about yourself and how you're the person that can overcome some of these things, that you have what it's got to keep going?
I think the biggest thing it's taught me about myself is that, well, one, I think I'm just really hard on myself, is naturally, I think I always look inward to myself and I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? Not what did other people do wrong? Because yeah, I could sit there and blame other people all day long for the things that they did wrong, and they did this to me and they did that to me, but it doesn't fix the problem. As how can I rise up from this and move on and either fix the issue or address it later to just keep the company going? Because as soon as you take on your first employee, you are now responsible for somebody else's livelihood. And so that, I think I just carry the weight of that so much that I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have employees. I now have my husband in the team. This is sustaining my family and I have no choice but to succeed. I have to keep going. And, I've just learned how resilient I can be. And I think other people would be very surprised how resilient they can be too when they are, in that situation. But it's an amazing yet terrifying, overwhelming experience. But somehow I look forward to every single day and I keep doing it.
I love that. You mentioned some of the challenges with the tariffs. You don't have to go to the entire rabbit hole. I'm sure we'd be here for another 2 hours talking about it. But what's the how is that situation putting stress on your company?
Oh, I mean, tariffs are up and down every single day. I don't know what to follow. I'm like, okay, sweet. We have a 90-day window to be able to pull in some inventory, make it a little bit more affordable. And then the next day, it's like, just kidding. Tariffs are at 100%. And now I'm like, okay, well, now the value of my shipping container is more than just the product of what's inside of it. It's outrageous. And it's made it incredibly hard for us to be able to just financially budget to figure out, okay, how long can we go with the inventory that we have before we have to reorder? How do we budget for the tariffs? It's so much to balance. And I would say the big thing though, is it's really helped us as a company relate and understand with other startups and other companies that have to rely on outside sourcing. For example, like I talked to a company that it's like they're a small business. They make pretty much everything here in the United States out of their own home, but they source the glass candles or the glass jars to make their homemade candles from China because they can't source them at a more reasonable cost here in the United States right now. And that's a huge blow to them. And what sucks is there's people that come out of the woodworks that just immediately attack you because we are doing the wrong thing, that we're, supporting China or that this and that. And there are so many things that you don't see. There's so many things that are factored into it that nobody takes account for. Like for myself, nobody would give me the time of day. Nobody would talk to me because I couldn't give them $1 million order right off the bat. And I tried for an entire year to make that happen. But also just even sourcing the raw material, like another misconception is that silicone, for example, is a commonly sourced product or material from overseas. It is rarely found or used in the United States. There are definitely places that you can get it, but it's at a very escalated price. So unless people want to buy my paint tray for $80, then I can't afford to manufacture it here right now. It's not to say that we aren't looking into options or figuring out how can we maybe do this ourselves, but it's such a battle to be able to try and navigate all of that. And also it sucks being misunderstood and being, pushed out like you're the bad guy when you're like, I'm just trying to literally make my product, not to like sit here and make this massive profit. Well, yeah, okay, great. We're making money, but also like, how can I improve people's lives? How can I help them do something that they love to do at an affordable cost? And something that has really kept me going actually is we've had a lot of our customers that are disabled, that they can now paint again. Whether they're painting on a canvas or painting a wall, furniture, it doesn't matter. They've been able to start painting again because they can start and stop, because now they can, when they start to, get fatigued or something where their body's not allowing them to actually do something that they love anymore, they can set it aside and come back to it a week later. That's been the greatest accomplishment, I think, is seeing people that are like, this is a joy and love of mine that I've had to stop because my body doesn't allow it to. And now I can do it again simply because of my product. And now if I have to sell that at $80, some of those people are not even going to actually have access to that, unfortunately. So tariffs, again, I could keep going on and stand on that soapbox all day long, but we're figuring it out. It's a long process, but it's something that we just have to kind of face and kind of go with the flow.
That's good to kind of get your perspective on. I think there's a lot of, just depends on the product, depends on the market, where it's at, how you source it. Everyone's got a different experience with it. Mm-hmm. Another question I had too, you mentioned being like kind of a woman in the industry or new to the industry and kind of learn and stand on your own 2 feet. What has been something that has been a cool experience in that realm? Has it been other female entrepreneurs coming to you talking about their experience and that type of thing, or what has it been for you?
It's interesting. Being a woman in a very male-dominated industry, not only in home improvement and painting, but also in manufacturing and leadership. I feel like I get it from all angles. So, there might be somebody criticizing me from a CEO or leadership aspect. Somebody's criticizing me from a manufacturing standpoint, and then also from home improvement that I'm not painting right. I don't know. I'm like, okay. I think eventually you just learn to have really tough skin. I also worked in agriculture. That was a very male-dominated industry. So, I heard it both on the farming side of things, but also in the agricultural business side of things. So I think I've just kind of learned to understand of like, what do I want to take and what do I not want to take? What do I want to subscribe to and what do I not want to subscribe to? And I think at the end of the day, it has really helped me connect with other women-owned businesses, especially in manufacturing or, agricultural businesses where it is a very male-dominated field, and understanding and hearing from their experience. And I think it's just helped me make decisions a lot better, actually, because one, I think we naturally want to take in other people's opinions, whether or not we act on them, but it reflects on us very heavily because people have an opinion, whether or not they're involved with your company or not. And so understanding, I think, like, just because this guy that's been in manufacturing for 40 years, can just come in and say, oh, you should do this, 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 and this. And you think, oh my gosh, I should really take his word because he has an understanding of it. And then it crumbles before you because you took their advice. And then talking with another woman-owned company, and they're like, hey, I had an experience like this, and I realized like you don't actually have to do that just because they say you should.
Right. And
you can stand on your own 2 feet and have the authority to make the decision that you need to.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think just the connection that comes with it, and like you mentioned, you're from a small town in Iowa. Maybe that inspires somebody there to be like, oh, there's another person here making a business. Like maybe I should do that. So I think that's kind of a fun thing that comes with it, kind of a collateral benefit too. One thing I was going to say or ask was also if you had someone that's considering starting a product-based business, what is like one piece of advice you would give them to try to avoid some of those early woes that you did when you were first starting your company?
Don't trust anyone.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, yeah, don't just trust anybody right out of the gate just because there might be leeches, and that happens a lot in product-based companies, especially that they might see the value of it and see it as a way to make a quick buck. And the more and more I've gotten into the industry, the more I've talked to people that are like, this happens all the time, and it's very, very common that it happens. So just because you're in the early stages and you don't feel like you have the authority or the ability to say something, you totally do. You totally have the ability to negotiate with somebody on the value of your company or how much equity they want to take. You can say all of that even if you feel like you don't have the authority to, or you don't have enough experience to say that. There's so many times early on that I wish I would have negotiated harder, just to be able to, get to a better phase of where I was at or where I wanted to be at that point. I think the other thing is you don't have to know all the steps right away. I think that is a huge misconception that you're like, well, I don't have manufacturing experience. I don't have marketing experience. I don't have this experience. That's okay. I didn't have any of that experience either. I just started with a Google search. I just looked, okay, does this exist? No, it doesn't. Okay. Now what do I do? And you just have to keep searching. And I spent an entire year just interviewing people, talking to people, figuring out how I can do this. And you're not on a timeline. There's no timeline but your own, whatever you want it to be. I said I was going to be a millionaire by the time I turned 30. Well, I'm 32 and I'm not a millionaire. So, you have nothing but time. And the biggest thing is you just have to go for it, because the next thing you know, you're going to hit 60, 70 years old and you're going to wish that you did it. And I still meet people that are in their 60s and 70s that are finally starting their companies because they're like, it's now or never, baby. Let's go.
The Colonel Sanders effect, right?
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
In the line of entrepreneurship, do you think that anyone can be an entrepreneur?
No.
Okay, to expand on that, because I get mixed opinions when I ask people this question.
I don't think everybody can be an entrepreneur. I think it takes a lot of just delusion. You have to be so freaking delusional. And I actually just had this conversation yesterday with one of my employees, is to be an entrepreneur, especially where you have to be leading a team, you have to be absurdly optimistic. You have to be so delusional to be like, we're going to do this, this, and this. And you have to believe it's going to happen. You have to believe it's already there. And sometimes it's going to happen. Sometimes it's not. But you have to just fully embrace that this is going to happen and make it, and it's just going to be. And I've met a lot of people in my life and career that are not that. They are incredibly cynical. They are, the opposite of being optimistic. They're just, everything is like a risk. Like, oh my gosh, don't take that route on the road because there's construction and this might happen. Obviously anxiety is going to play into it because your mind and your body wants to keep you safe, but you have to just get beyond that. So when I talk to people that are like, well, you can't do this because this might happen, you don't know unless you try. So no, I don't think everybody can be an entrepreneur, but also at the same aspect of all of that, yes, I have all of this delusional thought process and optimism. I also need the people on my team that can be a little bit cynical to kind of pull me back down to earth and pull me back down to reality. So it's not to say that they can't be an entrepreneur or can't be in a startup. Those people are still very much needed to help kind of center you and ground you.
For sure. No, I totally agree. I think there's definitely most people that would not pursue entrepreneurship, but if the issue or the cause is big enough or they have a personal tie enough that they'll do it. But I think there's definitely, like you said, there's a certain level of risk, and being that you have to make all the decisions without all the answers or all the information, and you have to own it. Because I think a lot of people, like you said, they want all the information, they want the easiest route, and everyone. I feel like I'm 31 as well, and in that age, and I feel like our parents and the generation above is like, get a good job and stay there for 40 years. I'm like, that's not the case. Even like a safe job, like you see, your husband got laid off in a job that probably thought was very secure. It's like there's risk everywhere. It's like pick your poison, So I think it's an interesting kind of mindset that people can shift. That okay, I have to I'm the person that has to figure all this out. I can't lean on my boss or anybody else to figure it out. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting, and it's just, I think I will say I'm very privileged. I'm very grateful for the experience that my parents gave me to be able to watch them, because they were the risk takers. And I always tell people that my dad, he was a traveling bird feeder salesman and a chimney sweep man in his early days before he decided to go to med school. Like, he tried all the things. And then he was also in the military. I mean, like, he did all the things just to see. And I always tell people, like, you're just testing the waters to figure out what you really want to do. And it's okay to not play it safe. Because like you said, you could be in a corporate job. And this happened with my husband, where he had been there for a while. And I mean, there was people in that company that had been there for 30 years that got cut. And so it's just, nothing is necessarily safe. You could lose it all in an instant. So it's like, for me, I'm like, why wouldn't I try? Like, what's the worst that happens, And I also don't necessarily care too much what people think either. So I think I can just kind of take that. But I'm like, you know what? I was bullied in high school. If somebody wants to bully me on social media, that's a complete stranger, fine. Like, if they don't like my paint tray, cool. I don't care. But you just have to take the risk because you just never know what's going to happen. I never imagined I was going to be on Shark Tank. I never imagined I was going to be with Home Depot or Lowe's. When I first started, I entered a lot of pitch competitions to try and fund the company. And I remember my very first pitch competition, I got cut off because I didn't hit the time. So I didn't even finish the pitch. And then I got honorable mention. So I got like, I don't know, $100 or something. And I remember feeling so crushed. And then later on, years later, they had me come back as a judge. And I announced the honorable mention. And before I had said that, I was like, I don't want anybody here to get discouraged, because when I was in this exact pitch competition, I got honorable mention and I thought, I'm done. This is never going anywhere. Nobody sees the value of my company. And I said, it was like 2-3 years later, all of a sudden I'm with Home Depot, I'm with Lowe's, I'm with Ace Hardware, I'm talking to Target, I'm talking to QVC, I've been able to be on Shark Tank. Like, I've had interviews on, I was interviewed on Fast Company and the Weather Channel, for crying out loud, like all these crazy things that I never imagined would happen. I've been able to get there. So just because you feel like you're down here, like I'm just honorable mention, does not mean anything. There's so much more that's on the horizon.
No, I love that so much. Billie, thank you so much for coming in. Where can people learn more about your product, about your company, and kind of find out more if they want to search you out here online?
Yeah, so we are pretty much on all the social platforms. So just check us out. It's Repaint Tray on pretty much all of them. Otherwise, I am the Repaint Lady if you want to find me on Instagram or TikTok and follow us there. Otherwise, if you want to see the Repaint Tray in action, you can go to repaintstudios.com.
Very cool. And I'm assuming buying direct on the website is the best option,
yes.
Right? More profit for you guys, which we'd rather do. So if you're going to support that, make sure to do that. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely link all of your information below. Thank you so much for making the drive down and coming in the studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Very good. Well, if you guys made it this far on the show, you guys know what to do. Subscribe if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube. The goal this year is 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do that. And tune into social media for clips from all the last 98 episodes of the podcast we release every Monday morning to keep you inspired and ready to build your business right here in the state of Iowa. My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and I'm out. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.